Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natalia and this video has got to be, no lie, asked about in real life. Like, I can't explain to you the amount of times that people have asked when I am going to teach them Spanish. And seriously, I'm the only Latina in my job, like in my actual day job, and I can't tell you the amount of times that people have come up to me like, you know, Natalia, you should really teach me Spanish. I'm gonna speak Spanish when I'm around you. And I'm just like, why? I'm gonna admit here, this may be a shocker to some people, but I'm not a Spanish teacher. Sorry, I don't have a degree in Spanish. I just grew up around it. But because it is so requested here on my channel, I had to give you guys something, like just something to work with. So that's what I'm here for today. We're gonna learn some basics, some Spanish 101. This video may seem a little bit redundant if you already know Spanish, but feel free to share it with someone who does not and is looking to learn. We're not gonna get in depth at all because I don't want to get too ahead of myself and like start putting like Rosetta Stone type videos out, because that's not what I'm looking to do. But because you guys ask me so much, I do want to share some basics of the language along with just some key phrases that you should know if you ever visit a Spanish speaking country or just want to try and impress your friends, or you're going to a restaurant and you want to try to speak to them in Spanish. So hopefully this will help you. As always, please don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy this video, as well as leave a comment down below, and also what country you're from, whether it's a Spanish speaking country or not. Let me know where you're from watching this video. Don't forget to follow the rest of my social media accounts: Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm doing some awesome stuff on Facebook, so make sure that you go and check that out. So to get started, like I said, this is just gonna be a super basic video. I do want to start with the Spanish alphabet. Now, I'm not going to be going like A to Z and how everything is pronounced, because there are tons of videos and articles and stuff online for that. But I did want to highlight some key letters that, even though pretty much like all of the alphabet is exactly the same, like visually, they're not pronounced the same way. So these are just some key letters to look out for and double check how they're actually pronounced when you say the words. We're gonna start with C, which obviously is just a C, like in the English alphabet. But depending on how the word is spelled determines how the letter is pronounced. And there are tons of words in English like that. For example, if the letter C is gonna come before an E or an I, then it would make the S sound similar to an S. So like veces, to mean times, it would be cuántas veces. So I threw in cuántas veces because not only does it make sense how many times, but the pronunciation of the C does change when it's not sitting in front of an E or an I. So as in veces, C is sitting before E, so therefore it makes the S sound. In cuántas, C is sitting before a U, therefore it makes a K sound, similar to a K. So it would be cuántas veces, not cuántas veces or cuántas veces. You know, so you have to pay attention to how the words are spelled. If you're reading, if you're able to see the word like on paper or on something, just pay attention to how it's spelled, because then that'll also help you with the pronunciation when you're saying the word. The next letter that I do want to just quickly run through is D. D in the American alphabet and in English makes the D sound, like just using your teeth pretty much and the air behind your teeth. It's D, like David or doctor. In Spanish, it's gonna sound a little bit more like the TH sound, so a little bit more like th. So you would say de donde eres. You would use your tongue in place of just the D. You wouldn't say de donde eres, because then you just sound like a gringo who doesn't speak Spanish. You would say de donde eres. So it takes a little bit getting used to using your tongue to pronounce that D, and that's honestly one of the biggest like identifiers for someone. If you're listening to them and you know that they're not a native Spanish speaker, like that's an easy way to tell if they're pronouncing the D a little bit off and less of a th sound and more of a d sound. So again, just to go over, it wouldn't be de donde eres, it would be de donde eres, de donde vienes, like just another example. Now again, just highlighting some letters that sound different in Spanish. The letter H, which is pronounced H in the Spanish alphabet, it is pretty much silent in most words. Like you wouldn't ask someone que hora es, it would be que hora es. The hora is just as if you're just reading out the O-R-A and not the H, because the H is mainly silent. Unless you're saying, an example that I found online when I was looking, this was like the word Hawaii would be Hawaii still, so you would still pronounce that H, but it would be like, ¿qué haces ahora? ¿Qué hora es? ¿Estás hablando mucho? Like you wouldn't say, ¿estás hablando mucho? No one ever talks like that, and it's just incorrect. So the H is mainly silent in most, if not pretty much all words. Now, the next letter that I just want to go over is the letter J, which can be pronounced differently depending on where you go. I know like in Puerto Rico and in Spain especially, the J sound can be very harsh, like it's coming from the back of the throat, like it's just like, ay tu jode mucho, like it's like a ho sound, like as if you're gonna like hock a loogie and spit. It's like ho. Ay, no tienes que joder tanto. Spain, people from Spain are very well known for like having that like ho, like they're like really gonna give it to you. Now the next letter that I want to go over is the double L. Now I know it looks like two letters, but this does stand out in the Spanish alphabet because this sounds different than your typical L. The typical L in Spanish, like when it's just one alone, it will make the L sound, like la, los. When you have the double L together, that automatically becomes a J sound. So it sounds similar to a J, and again, this is another one that varies region to region. If you go to like Argentina or Uruguay, then the J sounds more like a J. It's a little bit more drawn out and pronounced. La lluvia. ¿Por qué estás llorando? Like it's more like pronounced as opposed to some other places. Like in Puerto Rico, I know it tends to sound a little bit stronger. In like Colombia as well. Apparently I've heard in Medellin, it's not Medellin, it's Medellin. It's just pronounced a little bit stronger, like llorar, lluvia, as if it was a J and not a double L. But always know that double L does make the J sound. How you pronounce it after that is up to you. Another letter that I do want to highlight over is the Enya. Now, Enya is separate from the actual N because the N, this is similar again to the L versus the double L. The N versus the Enya. Enya, you'll notice, has that little squiggly line over it when you're reading. The Enya is automatically gonna make a nye sound, like in the word mañana. Mañana is the perfect example because it has an Enya and an N in it. So notice that the first N has the squiggly line over it, therefore being pronounced mañana. Mañana, not manana, not mañana, it's mañana. So mañana, and then notice that the last N in mañana, I feel so silly, but notice that the last N in mañana doesn't have the little squiggly line over it, therefore making it just a regular N, and therefore it's pronounced as na. So mañana. Mañana. So you just have to get your tongue used to making that nya sound, which is a little like needy. So if you're reading, just know that with the line over it, the symbol, then you know it's nya. If it doesn't have a symbol, then it's just a regular n sound. So the last letter that I do just want to highlight over is one that is also super similar to the L versus the double LL, or the N versus the Ñ, and it's R versus R. So R versus the double R. Now this makes a huge difference in Spanish, and they are pretty much to be thought of as two entirely different letters. So I was trying to look online to figure out what's the best way to describe this, and I think the easiest way is just to take two words, for example, that are spelled very similar except one of them has an extra R, and it would be pero to say but versus perro to say dog. So perro is P-E-R-O versus perro, which is P-E-R-R-O. And there is a difference, and it can get kind of confusing, but it really has to do with the way your tongue is like situated in your mouth. So you would say pero like, pero yo no quiero ir, or pero déjame quieta. Like it would just be, you know, like a little bit more shorter, if that makes sense. And then perro would be that extra r. So again, the enforcement of the rolling of the tongue. So it's perro. You want to say pero, mira ese perro. No, it's mira ese perro. Or carro is another word for car. Another word that's similar to pero is para, like to mean for. ¿Para dónde vas a ir? Like, where are you gonna go? You know? Or mira ese carro ahí. Like, not mira ese carro, mira ese carro. And again, this is something that can also vary depending on the region that you're in or where the person is from that you're talking to. In Puerto Rico, the double R can sound like a H sound in some regions. So it may be cajo or ajos instead of arroz or carro, you know? So it's just little things to look out for, and don't let yourself get too confused with accents wise. It may be a little bit difficult when you're hearing different people say the same thing, but start out by like looking at the words and reading them and trying to pronounce them. That's why I really enforce like Duolingo, because I think that Duolingo goes over the same sentences over and over again, and then you can read them out loud and you can listen to them being said as well. So that's an app that really helps. I know a lot of people ask me all the time, how can I learn Spanish? And that's probably one of the #1 things that I mentioned, along with listening to music or watching a telenovela. And so the next subject that I want to go over is what I think personally would probably be right above learning the alphabet, and that is learning about nouns and masculine nouns versus feminine nouns. So now just getting into words and noticing how they're spelled and how they're written out, and how that differentiates the way that you categorize that word. I really hope that that makes sense. When you think of masculine nouns and feminine nouns, you're pretty much thinking of the word the. Now in English, we just say the car, the man, the woman. It's pretty much consistent all the way across. Whereas in Spanish, you would have el versus la, or las versus los. So it really depends on whether the noun itself, whether the thing, the person, place, or thing is masculine or feminine. Again, just to keep it super simple for now, when you see most nouns, most, that end in O, that's an indicator that it is a masculine noun. When you see nouns that end in A, then that is an indicator that it's a feminine noun. This can get a little bit confusing because there are some nouns that completely flip that rule down to hell, and it just like basically is irrelevant. Just starting with the ones that do correlate with this rule, think of, again, and I just want to keep referencing words that I've already said just so I'm not, you know, overpowering anyone, because this is like, again, super basic. But carro. So carro ends in an O. You wouldn't say la carro, you would say el carro, or el niño. So niño ends in O. You would say el niño, not la niño. Now looking at words that end in A. So another word, for example, would be hija, which means daughter. You would say la hija, not el hija, because it ends in that A. Another one would be piscina, for example. It's really hot, so I'm thinking of the pool. So piscina would be la piscina, not el piscina, because it does end in an A. So now for some words that completely flip the switch and don't have this rule applied to them. For example, dia. So dia, even though it's spelled D-I-A, is a masculine noun. So you would say el día, not la día. Yo estaba ahí todo el día, not toda la día. So just something to look out for. Another word would be idioma, which is the word for language. You wouldn't say la idioma, you would say el idioma. Estoy aprendiendo el idioma de español. I'm learning the Spanish language. That's just an example. Now, I really did not want to get too crazy and start getting into conjugations and all of that, because that can really get confusing and take a lot of time. But I didn't want to leave you without some basic phrases. Again, if you guys are going on vacation or you have some Spanish friends that you want to talk to in Spanish. So these are just some basic things that you can say that people will be like, hey, where'd you learn that? The first one, hola, hello. You're not gonna walk into anywhere without saying hello, right? So the way that you would say that would be hola. I would think that many people know that, but for those of you that don't, hola is how you say hello in Spanish. Now, depending on when you walk into that place and when you see those people would determine if you say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. So for good morning, it would be buenos dias, buenos. Notice how that's gonna change depending on what time it is and which one you're saying. So it would be buenos dias for good morning, buenas tardes for good afternoon, and notice how the A replaces the O in buenos or buenas, so it becomes buenas tardes. For good evening, you would say buenas noches. So notice that the A remains for afternoon and evening. So just a little tip for you, this goes back to dia and the masculine versus feminine. Because you're saying dias at the end, the buenos is gonna become masculine. So it's gonna be buenos dias, not buenas dias, because dias is a masculine word, not a feminine word. Now, if you wanna ask someone how they're doing, ¿cómo estás? How are you? And if you're talking to an older person or maybe a complete stranger that you never met before, ¿cómo estás usted? Now that's, you know, jumping the gun a little bit, but just know that usted is used for basically out of like respect. It's a more formal pronunciation or formal word rather. So you would say ¿cómo estás usted? If it's an older person or someone that you've never met before and you just want to be really formal and kind, that's what you would say. And if someone asks you how you're doing, then obviously you want to be able to answer them in Spanish. So you would say bien, gracias, muy bien, gracias, good, thank you, or very good, thank you. And one that I know everyone will need if you're in a Spanish restaurant or if you're in a Spanish country or in a Spanish household, ¿dónde está el baño? You want to know where's the bathroom. You know, you don't want to be running around trying to talk to people that don't understand you and you're peeing your pants, or even worse, you know, doing the other side. You just don't want to deal with that, right? So that is pretty much it, guys. I really hope that you guys enjoyed my little teensy weeny beginners Spanish lesson. It's really hard to like teach Spanish through videos and be consistent with that, and I don't want to go like too over my head and get too complicated where people don't understand what I'm saying at all. But I really hope that highlighting just some key letters that are different in the Spanish alphabet, as well as going over some masculine nouns and some basic phrases, I really hope that that helped just a teensy weeny bit. And who knows, I mean, if you guys really want me to continue, maybe I can make these a little bit more fun. Maybe I can invite special guests with me and I can maybe teach my boyfriend Spanish because he speaks Portuguese, and that would be a fun video if we did Portuguese versus Spanish. Let me know if you guys want to see that. Leave a big thumbs up if you guys want to see that, because that would be fun. Again, thank you guys for all of the love, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.